The city screamed below us. But up here, on that crumbling rooftop in the summer of 1973, it all faded to a distant hum. I remember the way the humid air clung to my skin like a bad decision, thick with the scent of hot asphalt and distant rain. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might crack my ribs. Then Alex was the only thing keeping me from shattering right there. His arms wrapped around me, strong and unyielding, like he'd been waiting his whole life to hold me this way. But we both knew it was the end of something we hadn't even named. It started with a fight. Not the kind with fists or shouts that echo off brick walls. No, ours was quieter, sharper, the sort that slices through years of stolen glances and half-spoken truths. We were 22, invincible in that reckless New York way, dodging the draft and the drafty apartments in the village. I was Jamie, slinging paperbacks at a dusty bookstore on Bleecker Street, dreaming of poetry that no one would read. Alex was the fire to my flicker, a guitarist scraping by in smoky bars, his fingers calloused from strings and secrets, his laugh like gravel under tires. We met in high school back in Ohio, two misfits trading comic books under the bleachers. But the city had sharpened us, turned boys into men who loved too hard and said too little. That night, we'd been at CBGB, the air electric with punk riffs and sweat-soaked bodies. The Ramones were just a whisper then, but Alex played backup for some no-name band, his Stratocaster wailing like a confession. I watched from the bar, nursing a warm beer, my chest tight every time his eyes found mine across the haze. We'd been dancing around it for months, brushing knees under diner tables, lingering hugs after too many joints on fire escapes. In the 70s, love like ours wasn't a song on the radio, it was a shadow you chased in alleys. A risk that could get you beaten or worse. Stonewall was 4 years back. But the cops still prowled, and the world still whispered, "Freak," behind your back. After his set, we stumbled out into the muggy dark, the club's neon buzzing like angry bees. "Come on," he said, voice rough from shouting over amps, grabbing my wrist with that grin that made my knees weak. Rooftop. Need air. We climbed the fire escape of our shared walk-up, the metal groaning under our boots, city lights sprawling like a glittering trap below. Up there, the skyline was a jagged promise, Empire State glowing defiant. Taxis honking faint as heartbeats. We passed a flask of cheap whiskey, the burn chasing the night's edge. Laughter first. Easy as always. Stories tumbling out. That time we hitchhiked to Coney Island and lost our shirts in a rigged game, the winter we pooled nickels for a shared coat. But then silence crept in, heavy as the thunder rumbling distant over Jersey. I felt it building, that ache behind my eyes. "Alex," I started, voice cracking like thin ice. He looked at me, profile sharp against the stars, cigarette dangling from his lips, ember flaring orange. "What?" Simple word, but it hung there, loaded. I couldn't say it. Not, "I love you," that was too big, too dangerous. Instead, "You ever think about leaving? This place. It's eating us alive." But it wasn't the city, it was us. The way we'd wake up tangled in sheets we pretended were accidental, the guilt gnawing like rust. He exhaled smoke slow, a sigh that rattled through me. Every damn day. But where did bio? Back to pretending. His eyes, dark, stormy, locked on mine. And in that gaze, everything cracked open. The flask hit the gravel with a dull clink. He stood, pulling me up, our bodies inches apart, heat radiating like a fever. The wind tugged at his hair, carrying the faint tang of his sweat and the river's brine. "Jamie," my name on his tongue, low and broken. His hand cupped my jaw, thumb rough against stubble, and time stuttered. I leaned in, or maybe he did, doesn't matter. Our lips met, tentative at first, tasting of whiskey and want. So, then fierce. Years pouring out in gasps and grips. His fingers knotted in my shirt, mine in his curls, pulling him closer until the world blurred. A moan escaped him, raw and real, vibrating against my chest. We broke apart only to breathe. Foreheads pressed, breaths mingling hot and ragged. But joy like that? It's a thief. It steals in and leaves wreckage. We can't, I whispered, even as my body screamed yes. The words tasted like ash. What if they find out? Your band? My folks. Alex? It's not safe. His laugh was bitter. A choke. Safe? When have we ever been safe? He stepped back, pacing the rooftop's edge, gravel crunching under scuffed boots. Below, a siren wailed, sharp as a knife. I saw it then, the fracture. He'd been offered a gig in California. A real shot with some producer sniffing around Laurel Canyon. Sunshine and freedom, he'd joked earlier. But now, his voice trembled. I have to go. For both of us. You stay here. Write your words. I'll write songs about this. The word lodged in my throat, a sob clawing up. I grabbed his arm, spinning him to face me. Rain started then, sudden and warm, pattering like applause on the tar. Don't. Please. Tears mixed with drops on my cheeks. Salt and storm. He pulled me into him again, crushing hold, his heartbeat thundering against mine. We sank to our knees, the rooftop rough and unyielding, but his embrace was home, solid. The only quiet in the chaos. I love you, he finally said, voice muffled in my neck, breath hot and uneven. Always have. From that stupid school dance where you punched Tommy for calling me queer. A wet chuckle, then a hitch. But I can't drag you down. Not when the world's still burning queers at the stake. The rain soaked us through, shirts clinging like second skins, but we didn't move. His hands traced my back, memorizing, while mine clutched his face, thumbs wiping rain from lashes. Thunder rolled, low and mournful, vibrating the air. I wanted to argue, to beg, but all that came was a sigh, deep and defeated, echoing the city's endless pulse. We held on as dawn crept in, sky shifting from ink to lavender, birds stirring tentative calls. When the sun crested, gilding the spires, he pulled back, eyes red-rimmed. He pressed something into my palm, a guitar pick, worn smooth, engraved with our initials tangled like vines. Keep it close, he murmured. Remember the quiet. He left that afternoon, duffel slung over shoulder, bus ticket to LA, clutched like a lifeline. I watched from the rooftop, alone now, the city roaring back to life, horns blaring, vendors shouting, life indifferent. The pick bit into my skin, a talisman against the void. Years blurred after. I published that poetry collection in '78, words born from that night, raw verses of rooftops and rain. Alex's songs hit the charts by '81, ballads that whispered our story to millions who never knew. We wrote letters at first, then calls from payphones, voices thick with what-ifs. AIDS came like a shadow in the mid-'80s, stealing friends, but we dodged it, ghosts in a graveyard city. By '95, I was a professor in Boston, tenured but hollow, grading papers on Whitman while staring at faded photos. He was a producer now, silver in his curls, living quiet in the canyons. We met once, in a neutral diner off the turnpike, awkward hugs, shared coffee, laughter laced with ache. Still got the pick? He asked, eyes searching. In my wallet. Every day. He nodded, hand brushing mine across the formica, electric as '73. No kiss. Not there. But in that touch, the world hushed again. soft as breath on glass. At 64, I climb rooftops in my mind more than in body. Arthritis in my knees, but the memories sharp, his hold, the rain's hush, the dawn's promise. Love like ours wasn't fireworks, it was the pause between thunderclaps, the breath before the fall. We survived, not together, but because of each other. And in quiet moments, with the pick warm in my palm, I hear it still, the world's vast silence, holding us eternal. He passed last spring, heart giving out midstrum. I flew west, scattered his ashes from a canyon overlook, wind carrying him home. Back in my apartment, I dusted off the old notebook from that rooftop, pages yellowed but true. I added one line, we held the quiet, and it held us back. The city below hums on, but up here, in memory's expanse, it stays forever still.